Story 1. The lack of loose skin after 3 years of fasting and whole food diet, dropping 410 pounds, going from 585 to 175 starting at 62 years old. There's a before and after post ninth down in my history for those that find it hard to believe. Story 2. I sink in water. I went out on a kayaking and swimming trip on a lake after losing a ton of weight. I didn't worry about my life jacket because I've always been able to tread water effortlessly. Not anymore. I was so tired from all the treading water since I had to keep up a higher pace to not sink. I forgot how much the fat held me up. Story 3. I went down a shoe size, but that was not what surprised me the most. It was the body dysmorphia. After losing 85 pounds, I still saw the 250-pound me in the mirror and still dressed in oversized clothes. The body changed, but the mind didn't. Story 4. As someone who once went from an average weight to being underweight due to situation-related depression, I was surprised by how the sudden influx of compliments on my figure negatively impacted my self-esteem. Story 5. There are many aspects of my journey that stand out, but the most peculiar has been the different reactions to the various weights I achieved. I lost 50 pounds in total over 3 years. When I first lost 25 pounds, I noticed an overwhelming amount of compliments, which I later understood were out of pity. I also had some friends who preferred me heavier as it made them feel better about themselves, which is quite twisted. During the period after losing the initial 25 pounds, people often dismissed my happiness and pride in my weight loss, arguing that beauty isn't about weight. While I understand that sentiment, it was frustrating to have my efforts undermined. However, after losing the second set of 25 pounds, my weight became a frequent topic of conversation. I received constant compliments, more attention, and interestingly, people started listening to me more. But here's the twist. I'm only at this lower weight because I've been going through a difficult time and I stopped eating enough, which also led to losing muscle mass. Ideally, I should be 10 pounds heavier and stronger, but for some reason, this frail version of myself has received the most notice and adoration. It's truly sad. Story 6. It's all anyone can ever talk about. I find it really inappropriate to comment on someone's physical appearance, and all I hear now is people talking about my body. When I try to deflect and move away from the subject, they double down. It's horrible and kind of makes me want to gain weight again because at least no one came up to me unprompted to talk about my appearance. Story 7. I lost 30 pounds and counting due to a chronic illness. My stomach probably shrank because I can eat maybe 1/3 of the amount I used to be able to. The absence of hunger and cravings still surprises me. It also still surprises me how coworkers feel entitled to comment on my weight loss like it's a good thing. Story 8. How many friends I lost because I refused to join them in partaking in unhealthy activities, such as alcohol and late-night binge-eating sessions, and prioritized my own health over their ideas of a fun time. Story 9. I've lost 40 pounds since January, and I was surprised by how much diet really plays into it. Like, my whole life, I thought I was bad at losing weight because I've always hated exercise. Like, growing up in the early 2000s, it was all fad crash diets and going to the gym, and I always assumed I'd just be chubby forever because I hate running. But this time around, all I'm doing is just counting calories. I have a number, I stick with it, and sometimes when I want to eat more, I walk on the treadmill. And it's been pretty easy. Though recently I got asked if I was on Ozempic, and I was sort of also surprised about how much it annoyed me, laugh out loud. Like, no bro, I just stopped eating so much food. Story 10. At 17, my weight reached its highest at 253, and by 19, I had dropped to 160. The worst part about losing weight was realizing that the one thing I had liked about myself when I was heavier, having fuller breasts, was no longer a feature I possessed. They became smaller and less firm, which has been a humbling experience. Now, at 20, I'm facing the reality that the one aspect of my appearance that I always admired is no longer there. I thought that becoming slimmer would solve all my problems, but it has only introduced new insecurities. Story 11. I felt like a ninja or a cat. It's an amazing feeling. Hold a couple of heavy weights in your hands and extend them for a minute or two, then place them on the ground and start some air boxing. Your hands move like lightning. Imagine that, but with your whole body. Story 12. My weight loss is unintentional, making things more complicated. However, I've noticed a few things. People comment even when I ask them not to. If I explain the weight loss is unintentional, some people understand and express concern. Others ignore that and respond with, "Well, this is great though. I suspect I'm actually less healthy now than when I was larger, but my doctors and I still haven't found a definite cause." Clothes shopping has become more difficult. I've transitioned from mid-fat to mid-size. This means I am on the borderline between straight sizes and plus sizes. I don't know my style in straight sizes. It's not the same as plus. I struggle to identify what looks good on me or what will be reliable. Most styles seem either too young or too old for me. I'm 41 and can't find a happy medium. Adding to this, I don't want to spend a lot of money since I don't know why I'm losing weight, when it will stop, or if it will return. I now notice the feel of seats. My car driver's seat has grooves in it, by design, and I never noticed it before. However, some days it's downright uncomfortable. Regarding body dysmorphia, specifically concerning how my body feels physically, it's a new experience for me to feel my bones. This makes me question, who even am I? Additionally, I have bat wings, and I'm not thrilled about it. Sitting for extended periods physically hurts my bony bottom, and, specific to my situation, my appetite is gone. I never know if I want to eat, can eat, or how much. It's weird. Story 13. How much nicer people are to you when you're not overweight. It was a wake-up call to realize how unpleasant society is as a whole. Girls were also much easier to get close to, which, while a lot of fun and certainly not something I'm complaining about, made me feel bad because I was the same person I always had been before. Story 14. The fact that healthy foods are not very calorically dense meant I was actually eating significantly more to meet my calorie deficit diet. The food was delicious. It was just the physical act of eating it that was hard, and I was constantly feeling overstuffed. My jaw still hurts. Also, I went from not even wearing a coat in 0-degree weather to freezing at 72 degrees. Also, a pro tip if you decide to get jacked during your journey: loose skin virtually doesn't exist. Story 15. I am down 160 pounds. The positions my wife and I can do that I never thought were possible. How much calmer I am about everything. I would freak out about going to a new restaurant with friends because I would worry about if I would fit. Walking 60 to 100 miles a month. I never knew that was possible. How weird it is buying clothes at normal stores. The amount of fun I get to have with my son. Indoor skydiving, zip lines, go-karts, amusement parks. All things I couldn't do before. Story 16:1. It's easier to do everything, that is, walk anywhere, sit on the floor, get up in the morning. I have so much more energy, and nothing hurts. People don't recognize me. I think I look the same, just not so chubby, but obviously not. How easy it was by just sticking to a sensible diet, no cheating or cheat days, but just good food every day. Story 17. Lost about 23 kilograms. The biggest surprise for me was where my breasts went. I was never huge in that department anyway, but they have almost disappeared. Apart from that, I do feel better and fitter after losing the weight. Story 18. I lost 30 pounds in the last 3 months, and what surprised me is that clothes that barely fit when I was younger and, in my mind, thinner now fit perfectly. Sadly, extra stuff now hangs from my shoulders. And people are nicer to me, haha, like it feels different how they treat me. Story 19. The way people act towards you changes. As much as it's nice to think that people are accepting, there was a definite positive change in the way people in general treated me and interacted with me. Story 20. Being able to keep my legs together when I bend over was a challenge. I wasn't always overweight, but taking oral cortisone has made me ravenous from time to time. What I found hurtful were the remarks followed by laughter that total strangers made towards me. Strangers who don't have a clue. Now, my heart goes out to overweight people. Story 21. 1. I get way more male attention. 2. How expensive it was to recreate your entire wardrobe. 3. I went from a size 10/12 to a size 00/0. As frustrating as it was when clothing was too small for me, it has been equally frustrating when clothes are too big for me. Story 22. I dropped from 97 kilograms to 90 kilograms currently. The thing that surprised me the most is how little I actually have to eat to feel full. It made me realize that previously when I had been overeating, it was more out of habit than actual appetite. Story 23. How mean some other girls were about it. The chubby ones didn't say a word as 100 pounds left me, and the skinny ones talked poorly about me and said I was having an affair with different men. Men were way nicer, which made me so mad. Story 24. The pseudo-compliments or goals that other people set for me or assumed I wanted. If you get to single-digit pant size, we're throwing a party. Why is that an accomplishment and not the fact that my blood sugar and A1C have drastically improved? That deserves a party. Your legs are astronomically smaller. Cool. Did you need to say astronomical, though? Story 25. How people suddenly treated me much better in shops, on the bus, everywhere. More people made eye contact, so I was so angry at them all for a long time because of the hypocrisy. It's acceptable if I'm thin, but if I'm fat, I'm invisible? Pardon the irony. Story 26. That people think it's a compliment to talk about how much weight you lost. That the first question is which drug you took. I worked really hard. And why do you have any right to know anyway? That I'm suddenly more interesting even though I'm still the same person, and all they want to talk about is how I did it. That everyone will compare themselves, their weight loss journey, weight gain, weight loss failures to you, with or without your participation in the conversation that is happening right in front of you. Story 27. The type of women I can attract. I know it's superficial and a bit arrogant, but since I lost 80 pounds and got in serious shape by crushing the gym 5 days a week for 2 years, I started dating again, and now I date the most gorgeous woman of my life in every regard. We made it official some weeks ago, and every day I feel like an imposter. Story 28. Not being out of breath climbing the stairs was always just something I accepted as a reality for everyone. Cardio, even walking around, got easier than I ever imagined. I lost 70 pounds and went from 240 to 170 pounds. Story 29. I lost 20 kilograms and kept it off for 5 years. It's cold. No insulating fat. Chairs are uncomfortable. No cushy fat. I used to sleep on my back with my hands on my belly. This doesn't work anymore because my belly is gone. People who would have never noticed me before have started flirting with me. Story 30. How differently people treat you. How acquaintances become friends, and then, as you put the weight back on, how those friends go back to being acquaintances. Story 31. How over-the-top annoyed I was going to get by all the sudden female looks, glances, accidental contact. I am 1000% the same guy I was last year. Vapid. I am freezing. Like all the time. I can bend in weird ways now without hurting myself. I can run. Story 32. How the same conversations I've had with friends who struggle with body image, where I used the same affirmations and offered the same support, now meant less coming from me because I was skinnier. Story 33. 25 pounds down in 4 months. I've received a mixture of compliments, being told I didn't need to lose weight at all, which I did. There's also been interest in how I'm losing the weight, assumptions about using Ozempic, and one snide comment about losing muscle mass. Intermittent fasting, eliminating unhealthy eating habits, cutting down on sugar and alcohol, and walking 10,000 steps a day have yielded surprisingly tremendous results. Shirts and bodysuits fit better now, but I need new bras and pants. I've learned not everyone will be happy that you're happier. Some people really don't want to see you doing better than them. Story 34. Looking in the mirror every day, I don't really notice the changes that much. But when I look at a picture of myself, I'm extremely surprised with how different I look. Who's that attractive man and why isn't he in my mirror every day? Story 35. There really is a fat tax. I was amazed, and a bit horrified, to see how much better I am treated out around town shopping, restaurants, etc. Then I was back before I lost 100 pounds. Ignored usually by people before. Story 36. How terrible clothing is now. I bought some new pants, and they're already falling apart after 6 months. All my bigger clothes are years old and still are in good shape. Story 37. You are not invisible anymore. People actually seem to have more respect for you. You are always cold. It hurts to sit without a cushion. Sex is way different. People start judging you for losing too much weight. The list goes on and on. I've lost 80 pounds since November last year. Story 38. People think it's okay to comment on your body. I just lost 50 pounds due to illness. I was absolutely obese before, but when people tell me how good I look now, I want to cry. How can I look so good when I feel so terrible? Story 39. How suddenly, at some unspecified point, I became more immediately appealing as a body and more immediately ignored as a human being or substantial person. I had previously relied on connecting with people by fighting their immediate gross assumptions about who I was as an obese woman and truly enjoyed the connections I made with people who saw and enjoyed me for me. When I got skinny, it all became shallow, fake, and scary. I was confused and still am years later. I truly miss being obese me sometimes. Not for the health issues or the abuse or anything, just for the wholesome way human connections were formed. Story 40. Number 1. How different people treated me. They were legitimately nicer than before I was slimmer, which is absolutely wild to me. Number 2. I get so cold now. It's insane, laugh out loud. Story 41. I went from 260 pounds to 160 pounds. Kind of not safe for work, but I became a new sexual being. My libido shot through the roof, and one day after cleaning myself up down there, I realized I was much better endowed than I thought I was while overweight.